contributions to human civilization has been its insistence on the equality of all human beings. Islam tolerates no notions of racial superiority or inferiority. All human beings are equal before God. That same principle of equality is absolutely fundamental to democracy. And democracy is a foundational principle of our Constitution. Democracy is part of what makes us who we are as a nation. Even if we might still gravitate towards racial groupings, our allegiance to these groups must never overshadow our allegiance to the Constitution and to the claims of equal dignity that it establishes firmly and permanently. Political parties based on race or religion must never be allowed to do or say anything contrary to justice and equality. We must anchor ourselves in the Constitution and restore its primacy. This founding document of our country establishes definitively the equality of citizenship, establishes that is the bedrock of democracy. It gives us the framework of law and order within which we become a nation. It establishes the primacy of the rule of law, the sovereignty of parliaments, the independence of the judiciary and civil service, and of our law enforcement agencies. These are the institutions which guarantee the freedom and sovereignty of the people. We should acknowledge that while race is a category that unites people in common feeling, it can also divide, and divide disastrously. While it unites people who possess a set of social markers, it often divides the same people from other communities. We should appreciate not just the fact that we are diverse, but diverse in different ways. What I mean by this is that we are not diverse in the sense of being merely Malay, a Chinese, an Indian, a Kazakh, Ivan, and so forth. Each of us inhabits these particular identities in different ways. Each of us is not just a member of a race. There are other classifications which matter to us, such as location, class, social status, occupation, language, politics, and others. We would be terribly impoverished as persons if our identity was given ahead of time and once and for all merely by our membership of a fixed racial category. I would be a very dull person if you could tell who I was simply by looking at my race. We would never have unity if that is primarily how we regard one another. If you reflect on yourselves, you might find that all kinds of identity matter to you. That you are a graduate of such and such a university, that you speak these languages, support this football team, enjoy certain food or music, love to travel, can write computer code, have read such and such books, and have so and so as friends. Just reflect on how you can identify yourselves in your Facebook profiles. Is race the only thing you regard as important about yourself? Is it the most important thing? To expect our politics to be given by our race is to make cardboard images of ourselves. It is to retard our growth as individuals and hence as society. Similarly, to see no more of others than their race is to turn them into stereotypes and maintain a view of the world bordering on racist. I want to urge you, as the makers of the new social landscape, we need in Malaysia to reject taking race to be a unique and fixed categorization, to reject race as a central category of social and political life. Race is a constructed category in the sense that people shape what they count as a race according to time, place, and purpose. There is no unique and rigid concept of it, the way there is a rigid concept of buoyancy, double entry bookkeeping, equilateral triangles, and photosynthesis. I would be offended if you tried to measure and determine my racial identity and you would tell me that there was something deeply wrong with your worldview. I am not made in the sense in which water is H2O. Race is merely one among many identities we take up in life. We may not have much choice over how others categorize us, but we certainly have a choice about the relative importance to place on our own, and therefore on the other's racial identity. We have a choice in how much weight we put on it, and in how high in our scheme of values we put it. The contrast I want to draw is between the view that makes race out to be a unique and fundamental category, and a view that sees race as one out of many kinds of identification we could prioritize. If we see race as a watertight category, then you are either of race X or not, and everything else, your habits, thought patterns, loyalties, and politics must all follow from that. Then race becomes destiny. The politics of this kind of conception of race will always divide, and the ultimate solution to intra-racial problems it leads us to is in the end violence. It is easy to identify the practitioners of this kind of racial politics. They will rely on veiled threats of communal violence, even as they take part in democratic politics. However, if we understand that racial identity is just one of many identities we have to balance, then it becomes hard as thinking persons to set relative priorities on all these identifications. We need to ask ourselves whether we want to draw our moral values and perspective from our common humanity or from our racial identity. As educated, reasoning people, we cannot but find our common humanity the more fundamental value. We cannot but find rationally chosen universal values more important than inherited tribal affiliations. The ability to root ourselves in our common humanity, first and foremost, is the prerequisite for the development of a democratic society, in which policies are decided by public reasoning, rather than determined by violence and manipulation. This is because open public reasoning can only be carried out where there is equal respect for dignity and rights of all citizens. And such respect must be firmly rooted in an understanding that despite sometimes clashing interests and identities, we are united by a more fundamental common identity, that of a shared humanity created by God. Our common humanity gives us moral obligations to one another. regardless of our lesser affiliations, in a way that racial identity does not.